I was 40 or 50 grand in debt, and my tax bill came up, and that's when I was like, this is too much. I'm gonna declare bankruptcy and we'll move on. I'll find a different job. And I told Brandon that, and he's like, well, how much do you need to pay for tax? I'm like, man, it's like 10 grand. The next day he shows up at my apartment with a $10,000 check. And he's like, we're not giving up this soon. Go pay it off. I feel like a lot of people think, oh, you started a business, or, oh, you're an entrepreneur. I don't think most people self-select to do that. I don't think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. No, you're not. You have no idea how hard that is. It is insane. I miss some of my best friends' trips because I couldn't afford it. There's a lot of people that always do what they're told, always follow by the book, always, always, always. Like, to me, that's not a fun life to live. So stop making your bed, make things messy. There's an analogy. Do you want a whole grape, or do you want part of a watermelon? Because you can have a tiny little grape all to yourself, or you could be a part of something bigger. And so I think one of the biggest lessons I learned, no matter what you want in life, nothing comes easy. Nobody's good at anything just because they kind of do it. They get good because they sink their life into it. But it's the idea of there's a human at the end of everything. Never forget that. Especially the people that are easily missed. The front of house staff, the person taking you to your table. The people that aren't going to get a thank you, we should all be giving them a thank you. Wow. Of all the things you can give somebody, give them the idea that they could do something bigger.
So Jeph, why don't we get the ball rolling by you giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Brief introduction.
Yeah, you could go long. Come on.
I don't know. My name's Jeph Maystruck. I work at a marketing company here in Regina, and I've always had a non-traditional view of business and life. And I cook, I bake, I have lots of hobbies. I care about people. I've got a family, got a couple little rugrats at home. But I try to take each day, try to live in the moment, I think. That's kind of been my philosophy. And like, no matter what, you can always make your day a little bit better. Even if what was that? I read something. I love the idea. There's a person that said you can learn to be an optimist just in the morning when you're going through all your day and you're like, oh, this meeting's going to be bad, or this meeting's going to be bad. Your brain automatically goes through the worst case scenario. This person said, you can do the opposite. You can actually plan for, like, what if one of those meetings goes really good? Or like, what if you did something that makes it really awesome? So I like the idea of you're in control of your own destiny. So send someone a joke. Send somebody a funny meme or something. Like, poke the world in a fun way, and you'd be surprised at how... And maybe that's a bad example. The next time you walk across a stranger, hopefully you're not walking across strangers. Next time you see a stranger, say hello and watch what happens. You're going to get a weird... And be excited. And you're going to see this weird thing when what happens. They'll smile back at you, and all of a sudden you realize that the world's not as bad as most people make it out to be. It's actually pretty cool. And yeah, you're in control of your own destiny.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love your mindset about things. Like, even in a pre-podcast meeting, like, you're talking about how good ideas start off as bad ideas, right? Like you said that, oh, you're having a bad day, just do something good, right? So I love that perspective. I actually want to talk to you about how you started off in university. What started off as a blog turned into Strat Lab. Like, do you want to talk us through that journey?
Yeah, well, I think I know where I was working at the time, and a fellow basically could build websites, and I read somewhere you should buy up your own name, and so I started writing under jeffmaystruck.com. But at that time, I just had this idea of, like, I had a few big boy jobs. Like, my co-op was with Mosaic Potash in the accounting department. Oh, sweet. Yeah. You say, oh, sweet, but my favorite thing was dressing up and matching my belt to my shoes and trying to make people giggle. The worst accountant Mosaic has ever hired. But I feel like it's the Steve Jobs. It's hard to know where you're going when you are looking forward, but when you look back, all the dots line up. What that place taught me was you don't have to buy into the cubicle lifestyle. And I literally worked in a cubicle. It's sad though, because like I remember, this is bad to tell you, but I remember being so hungover in the morning because I was in university that I could figure out a way to put like two screens on with a spreadsheet, and I could actually fall asleep for a little while on my hand while looking like I'm looking at. And at that point, that's when I went to my boss. I'm like, we should just break up. And it was one of those like, move on. But I feel like that's where I realized I had to do my own thing. I just didn't want a regular job. And to be honest, we never wanted to start Strat Lab. I interviewed Brandon, and I was like, he's smarter than me at a lot of this stuff, and I don't like him. So I feel like we have this good relationship. And like literally, Strat Lab wasn't like a big planned out idea. Lyndon was doing a lot of cool stuff at the time. Brandon he already had a successful website company, so he didn't really need us. We just kind of latched on, and it wasn't good. Like the first, Lyndon left in not good terms. Like I still remember having an argument that I've always regretted when he left. And if you don't know the story, like Lyndon Wilcock went to Ursu at the time, then he started Wheelhouse. He did great, and I always say like a part of Wheelhouse's success was part of us because we parted ways at one point, but we struggled. It was awful. Like you don't make money for the first few years when you're trying to do something non-traditional. When you're trying to do something different than everybody else, well, guess what? No one's lining up to pay you.
What does non-traditional mean in your terms?
In my terms, would be whatever the other companies weren't doing at the time. And any of the agencies in Regina back 20 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody looked at social media as a viable anything. Still, there's some I don't think still that look at it as a viable entity. But when we're talking about a digital, I still remember telling people we're starting a social media focused company. I still remember at the time, the president of the university looking me in the eye and being like, "Is there money in that?" Almost like the idea of like, "You're an innovator. Like, do you think you can make money doing that?" And I just had this moment of like, don't you think the world's going to evolve? Like, don't you think this weird thing called the internet that we're on every day, like, you don't think that's going to blow up? And so I hate to say, like, a lot of our business model is based on faith of Moore's law. Every 18 months, the amount of bytes on a chip will double in size. So literally, I had nights, like, I don't say I was like going to bed crying, but I had nights where you're not making money. You have expenses going out the door. You're living a lifestyle that is not sustainable. And all you're saying is tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be better. After a while, you have to ask for help from somebody, which is, I probably took way too long on that. But yeah, if I took myself back, if I went back to that old self and told that person to say, hey, it's going to be okay, that person probably would have said, yeah, but can you pay off one of the credit cards? Like, this is not sustainable. You got to figure this out. So I feel like a lot of people think, oh, you started a business, or, oh, you're an entrepreneur. I don't think most people self-select to do that. I don't think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. No, you're not. You have no idea how hard that is. It is insane. So I do believe the people that actually are successful with it, there's a little voice in the back of their head that's saying, you have to do this. You have no choice. And that in my mind was, as long as you believe in it and you're willing to work harder than anybody else on it and you're willing to sacrifice more than... I didn't go to friends' weddings. I didn't go to friends' like when people are like, oh, it must be nice to travel now. I'm like, I miss some of my best friends' trips because I couldn't afford it. And the business was more important than my friend circle at the time. And like, it's like, do you regret that? Absolutely. But I couldn't have changed at the time. You can't just create money out of nowhere. But that's the, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, 100%. Fuck yeah.
Well, I'm like, that's the shitty part of like, oh my God, you have StratLab, look at that. I'm like, no one saw the first 6 years when we weren't busy, or when people would send you shitty emails saying, or the one, there's one email I still remember where one of our amazing videographers quit because one client just took it out on her that the photos weren't good enough. Well, I've never talked to that individual ever again. And so there's a part of me now that I want to stick up for the weirdos. I want to stick up for the people that are different, or the ones that can't sit in a cubicle, that have to create, that are so incredibly amazing at what they do, but they don't fit into the mold of what we've created as society. That's what we're kind of creating. That's a long-winded answer, I know, for...
Yeah. No, we want those. And like, we want the full story, right? Because everybody sees this amazing StratLab company, but nobody sees the work that was done behind it. So there's this guy named, who's a stand-up comedian who wears suits all the time.
Russell Peters?
No, not Russell Peters. He's English. I can't remember the name of the top.
Carr?
Jimmy Carr.
Yeah.
So he has this line that people are jealous of what you got, but they're not jealous of how you got it. So nobody has seen the work that you've done, the weddings that you've missed. And I want to ask you this, like when you were in that time, because you just quit a job and you started this company and you're struggling, you don't have money to pay the bills, you're missing friends' weddings, missing trips. What kept you going?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel, you know how everyone's built a little different? Like your default mode, when you wake up in the morning, you have a default mode. My default mode, and I've been blessed with genes that make me very excited and happy. I could literally, I remember I was like about to miss out on like, I was going to default on a credit card payment. I had to beg my dad. We just got Carmichael as a client. So I'm like, Dad, we're working with one of the best nonprofits in Regina and they need so much help. Can I borrow some money to pay off my credit card? And I just remember him saying, like, Jeph, you can't keep doing this. And I remember to myself, I don't care. The point is, Carmichael just hired us. Or one of our very first projects was the Regina Police Service. We rebranded them. So when you see public service first on the side of the police car, that was one of our first projects. Did it pay lots? No, it was the police. But I got to interview 30 different people from different levels. In the back of my mind, maybe what kept me going was we weren't making money, but we were learning a ton. We would work with anybody that would spend time with us. And so, and I feel like this might be one of the biggest mistakes a lot of young people do is they chase the money. And they say, well, I need to make a lot of money. And I sit back and say, no, you don't. You need to create a skill set that is valuable going forward.
I think money's like a byproduct in the end, right? Like that's something that comes along the way.
You can always make money. Yeah. What you can't always do is learn from someone. And I still remember the whole police one was I literally was interviewing people. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why are they trusting us to do this? Well, no one up until that moment went to the police and said, you guys need a better mission, vision, and values. And we did. What kept me going, though, I feel like, was actually, I think there was an interview. I know Elon sucks now, but there's a moment where he was like, he built Tesla based on, there's a physics principle of you can't just create energy out of nothing. Like, right. And he'll have a TED talk. He's like, well, based on Newton's like second principle. I actually had to go look that up. So he started Tesla based on the theory that in the future, all this technology will be way faster. And so everything we're creating will be better. So in my mind was like, so if we create this internet-based business where people will want to, measure what they're doing and have a presence online, well, eventually they're going to hire us. And if right now is not the time, we can wait. So I literally, my marching orders were keep building, keep writing, keep doing, because eventually the world's going to show up. And I like that internally we always talk about punching up a weight class. Always fight people that are bigger than you. Always buy into projects that are bigger than you, because eventually you'll wake up and you're going to be the big one and say, oh, cool, let's move on. Let's go to the next one. So and that's not the best answer, but sometimes if you know what you're building and you know what you're doing and you know how the world works, you always want to be ahead of that curve. And if you are ahead of the curve, there's no money in it right away. But that's okay. As long as you're getting something out of it. And for us, it's always been learn something or create a relationship. The amount of people we have now that come back, oh yeah, you built a website for us 10 years ago, or oh yeah, you helped me 5 years ago. And I kind of chuckle because I'm always like, we're horrible at sales. We're horrible at reselling. But that makes us very trustworthy. And so people trust. I had a call with a guy last week, say, hey, can we meet? I'm opening up a new store in Saskatoon. Like, oh my God, Jason, I haven't talked to you in 5 years. He's like, yeah, you don't call, you don't write. I don't get it. And I'm like, oh, you're right. I should be better at this. But I hate salespeople. So I don't want, like, if we worked with you, I don't want to I'm not going to, you know what we do. Again, back to how do you keep going? Fall in love with something. And I loved when people would look up to me for a marketing idea, or I spoke a little bit at the time and I realized that could probably be an outcome too of just speaking more. So as much as like business was failing, there was still bright lights of like, holy shnikes, you can do something. But like before Big Idea Camp one year, I remember gathering the recycling out of our old office to take it to Sarkan so I could make payments the next week. Like,
No way.
It was that embarrassing. Like I was still making ends meet and I didn't want to ask for help and I didn't want to put that on anybody else. I wanted to do it all myself. Awful attitude as a young struggling business person. But yeah. But at one point you flip and you realize all of that work, all that hard work. And actually, like, I think 6 years in, so Stratla's been around for 12 years now, or 13, one of the two. I remember 6 years in, we never have anniversaries because Brad and I were like, don't have an anniversary. People have that because they don't think they're going to be around. So you see companies like, oh, it's our year one. It's like, don't do that because you may not have a year two. So I know maybe that's a bad thing. But the one year I made him an art print that said, it's a Biz Stone quote there. It's the work your ass off for 10 years and you'll be an overnight success.
Wow.
And so I put that on a print for him, and it was his Christmas present. I said, work your ass off for 10 years and you'll be an overnight success. And I think underneath in like tiny letters was like, we only got 4 more to go. So the whole idea was work. And I love the philosophy, chop wood, carry water. every day you should chop wood and carry water, whatever your water and whatever your wood is. But don't get to the point where you're, no, I need to take a break. I need to take I need to have a day. I need to take a week off. Well, then you're not in the right business. Yesterday on a call, I told somebody, I was like, you can always text or email or call. I'm not the type of person that's going to say, I don't want to talk to you. You can only talk to me during business hours. I don't like what I do. I love what I do. And so to be able to talk to somebody about what they're struggling with or what they need help with, it's literally the coolest thing in the world. So I guess to answer that was find what your calling is. What's there's the 2 most important days of your life, the day you were born and then the day you find out why you were born. If you can figure that out and you can buy into that, life gets easy. And by life gets easy is 12-hour days don't seem like 12-hour days. 18-hour days don't seem like 18-hour days. And the cool part too, at the time, I was living with a guy who worked at Task Power, and at night, he would renovate houses with my business partner's brother. And they would do that. And I remember him always going off to work at night after he worked a full day and being like, I can work harder than you. And so I'd start writing. And so we had this, like, it was almost an internal competition within our friend circle of who was going to do it more. And
But
I
a
still
healthy competition though. Like,
yeah,
there's
absolutely. It was
no
like
envy or jealousy
well, at
there.
first I was mad because I'm like, why aren't you guys sitting playing Rock Band with me at night? And it was like, no, they're being professionals now. What does a professional mean? You outwork everybody else. And with the help of red wine, I could work harder than most people. Harder meaning I could write longer. I could be on Twitter longer. And at the time, yes, it was Twitter, not X. And we still were there. Now I'm rambling though, so keep pushing.
No, you're chill. Yeah. But I gotta ask you this one thing. What do you think that's a key element has been missing in your industry? Because like you have a very unique approach, and you think of things very differently. You think of things outside the so-called mold that you're talking about, outside the box. What's missing in business owners, people trying to start their own thing, people just working at places like at your industry, that you could give them advice like, okay, you have to change this if you want to make it big?
At first I was like, oh, honesty. Like, just be honest with people. The amount of people you're going to come across in the business community, and I know it sounds horrible to say, but if their customer left $20 behind and they didn't know, they were going to take that $20 and not say anything. We need more honest people that aren't just willing to screw people over for work, because trust is the number one currency nowadays. Because you can find anybody. You need somebody else to do a podcast. There's 100 different podcasts out there. You need another my joke is you need somebody else to build your website. You literally can Google 100 different companies today. So why would you pick that one company? Well, trust. And trust is out of being honest with people. On the marketing end of things, it's willingness to have a bad idea. And by a bad idea is most people look at what we did last year and just tweak it a little. Just do what we did last year. The problem is now we have so many options, especially this is in the nonprofit world. We have so many options that if you invite me to the same dinner you did last year and it's the same thing, I go, well, I'm not coming. Like, people need to be willing to try something new. And that to me is the essence of the good marketing, is the idea of a remarkable something that people have to talk about after because it's different. But I feel like I've been given a gift of, again, my default is very positive. I can wake up and have failure after failure after failure after failure. And I'll still go to that 6th meeting and say, okay, let's try something new. And I'm okay to fail. If you have that idea that it's okay to mess up a little, it's okay to have, and then I feel like you have to have a good team around you too, because if you're always failing, people might be like, oh, he kind of sucks at what he does. It's like, no, we're just trying to move the needle. So I'd say for what's missing, honesty and just integrity, like doing what you say what you do. As silly as that sounds, most companies in my industry have a sales department. Most of those companies have to hit a certain quota. And by quota, meaning they need to take advantage of somebody else that doesn't necessarily need their services, so they hit a number. Think about the stock market and think about any companies on there. They have to hit their numbers for the next quarter. And it's so sad that you're going to put profitability in the next quarter over the long-term viability of your organization. So if you're more honest about what you're doing, and I know that sucks for a lot of companies, like, yeah, but we need to make sales. I'm like, I know, but the world's changing. And if all you're doing is what you did last year or the last 5 years, last 10 years, good luck. Because there's small companies like us that are willing to change up and do things differently that are going to run you over. And I don't say that as a bad thing. The world should change. And that, again, that goes back to have bad ideas, have fun ideas, be willing to try something new, be willing to have a podcast in a weird booth.
It takes balls to do that too, because I remember when we were having a pre-podcast meeting with Jeph over here, you mentioned that you purposefully missed out on a lot of sales opportunities just because you didn't believe in it?
Oh, I say it all the time. Like, I feel like we could grow way faster
Exactly.
by
Yeah, you
packaging
mentioned
what
that.
we do,
Right.
and me becoming the really slick sales guy that's always trying to pitch you the dream, and oh, you should be doing this, and oh, you should be doing that. Um, I have to look myself in the mirror at night, and I have a conscience, and there's just things I don't want to cross. There's lines, and then the other part is, like, are we struggling? No, we have a really good business model of care for your customers and out care the competition. So internally, we're trying to care as much as we can, and the more you learn about business, I feel like I said to somebody, I was like, oh, it's your product. Your product is the number one marketing. It's not marketing. You want to have a successful company? Build the best product in your industry. Then you don't need marketing. And that, I know that's coming from a marketer, and I'm saying you don't need me. If you have a really good product, you don't need us to. And that's kind of an internal thing. Like, if you have to go to advertising, I love the Seth Godin quote, advertising is the tax for the unremarkable. If you're not remarkable, if you're just like everybody else, if you're trying to sell in Superstore or Walmart, you have to advertise now. You have to get to more people because what you're doing isn't sustainable, which kind of sucks.
What company is it? The Body Shop? Yeah, they don't have a marketing department. And it's like a huge company, like a global firm, right? And the products are so good.
The company that sells creams and stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
they don't have a marketing department. They don't need to.
Costco, one of my favorite companies.
Rolex too, no?
What do?
Well, they do market a lot.
Really?
Oh, I'm like, yeah, F1. We were just
Not
watching
you,
F1
but
there.
like they have magazine and stuff. They put their ads in.
Costco. What does Costco do for marketing? Here, come buy this hot dog for $1.50. We're losing money on this, but come in. But also, if you think about for them, they're competing with Walmart, all the big dogs. And I love using Costco as an example because they treat their employees well. That's the other thing. You can't if you're just going to grow a company, but you're going to treat your employees like shit. You might be successful for a little while, but eventually the world's going to catch up to you. Costco, if you look them up on Glassdoor, they have a great rating. And last year, when what's his name down south came into power, and every company was cutting DEI, like their whole departments, and saying we don't care about that stuff anymore. Costco did the opposite, and they doubled down and said, actually, our shareholders really care about diversity, equity, inclusion. We're not changing a single thing. And that to me is when you look up. That to me is a company you look up to in the marketplace that says, no, we're going to do something different. My backpack, Cotopaxi, everything in my backpack is recycled material from a different project they were working on. And so that backpack, is it cheap? No. But does it make me feel good because it's actually helping the environment? Because it's not just blatantly taking new material and screwing people over for it. So maybe that's a bad example. No, I still believe in that company, and I don't think they need to market because everything. A lady at the airport the other day was like, "Oh my, what brand is that?" And I'm like, "There you go. If you get people wanting to look up what you're doing and how you're doing it, you've done it now." I'm just in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be so much harder. Well, think about AI. AI can do everything our company does. Literally everything, from websites to social. So why would you hire a marketing company then? Wait a minute. AI doesn't change on the fly. It can't listen to your customer. It can't do all the little things that we do really well. Are we using AI? Oh, every day. But it's not going to be the be all, the end all. We're going to iterate on something bigger.
Right. So
Sorry, go ahead.
So I want to talk to you about, like, you do a lot of presentations, right? And one of the topics I read on the internet, and you talked about how dare you be normal. Do you want to talk to us about that?
I think I might have stole it from Seth Godin, but it's around the whole idea of, as a kid, we were told to color in the lines, sit in a row, only talk when you're spoken to. That's not a fun world to be in. And at that time, you got to always understand, school was made. I'm stealing this from Seth. School was made to create more factory workers. Why else would they want us to sit in a row and do what we're told and to be really good at math and filling in the blanks and, being obedient? And I love, he's got one talk where he says, you're not going to out-obedient other countries. You can't do that anymore. There's other countries where people don't have a lot of money and they're going to out-obedient you just because they need a job. So how are you going to stand out? You can't just be more obedient than the next person. And that was, for me, it was like, oh, wear loud shirts. Where at the time, I still remember it was at the conference in Calgary, the Purple Lady. She's like, you got to figure out who you are because there's so many of us right now applying for the same jobs as you are. If you don't know who you are, and for her example was, she met with this psychologist who wasn't doing well, and she's bubbly, crazy, kind of like me, like wild. but her practice was very much like a traditional psychologist. And the marketer she hired said, change it. Paint everything purple. You're a purple person. You're loud, you're friendly, you're outgoing. Fast forward a year and she's doing great now because her whole practice is herself. It's wild. It's not like everybody else. But I do feel like because we went through 13 years of coloring in between the lines, we don't want to do that anymore. The other example is we all use cutlery organizers. You know you don't need a cutlery organizer at home. There's people that are very anal about design that are like, that's insanity. But I'm like, since I've lived on my own, we've just dumped the cutlery into one big bin. And I love every morning. I just get a little kick out of it because it's that's a little moment of rebel. I'm rebelling just a little bit. And as funny as that sounds, there's a lot of people that always do what they're told, always follow by the book, always, always, always. I'm like, to me, that's not a fun life to live. So stop making your bed. Make things messy. Don't match your socks. That's another one. You can rebel. You can create little moments in your life that now, what did I say the other day though? I lost my earpods and I told the wife, I'm like, my life would be so much easier if I just put things back where I usually put them. But because I live a life of random, I don't really have those set things. So sometimes it's when people are like, well, I like those cookies. Can you give me the recipe? I'm like, no, because I just make it up each time. I know the recipe, but I iterate and it's a little bit of randomness. Maybe that's just my way of getting through life in a fun way. I also don't know if I'm answering your questions or if I'm just rambling. So again,
No, you are.
Shut me
Trust
up.
me.
I think you're answering it in your own way that it aligns with the question. If that makes sense.
No, that's 100%. So you talk about evolving and, changing as fast as you can. How do you make sure you do that in your personal life and in your business? Because you really have to be very keen, very immersed into those things. Because, like creating new trends, evolving every single day, changing, it takes a lot of effort.
Well, it's easy though. But ask somebody, what are you failing at? What are you struggling with? What do you suck at right now? I will openly tell you, I'm not good at sourdough. I've been making better part of a year. Still, it's not good enough that I would call it really good bread. I would give it to you as a present. Gardening. I have lettuce and basil on the go right now. I'm struggling to grow. And the other part is I feel like you need hobbies. That makes a fun life. But also, I like that mantra of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you don't care, if your hobby is knitting and you don't care and what you knit sucks, what does that say about you as a person? I use it because most people that knit are really good at it, or they knit something that's really cool, and I'm guessing whatever they do, you could translate that to other parts of their life. I would think that I'm very, I don't think it's OCD. I'm very obsessive when it comes to hobbies or things that's why I can't video game. If I video game, I want to spend literally all my waking hours trying to beat the thing. And so I don't know, there's a part of me, I came out of a family of 2 older brothers and an older sister. So I have this want and need to always be seen or be the center of attention just because growing up, I had to be the center because that's the only way I got attention.
So you're the youngest sibling?
I'm the baby. But that's where I think you'll find, like, if it's the oldest kid, it's like, well, they're risk averse. They were the protector. They made sure. If you're the younger one, they're the wild. They're crazy. They're the, we saw how everybody else made mistakes and we're going to be different. But there was one book that talked about you should constantly be reinventing yourself. You should constantly be changing. So people around you think that you're always doing something new. But it's my philosophy. On the way here, what were we listening to? The new book, The Elephant in the Room. Just finished this amazing book on joy where the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu hang out for a week. Incredible.
Who's the other guy?
Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. 2 like the biggest religious figures in the entire world hang out for a week, and this guy writes a book based on what they're talking about.
Oh, wow.
Insanity. But they're jokesters. They're cards. What was the one line from the Dalai Lama? He giggled. He said, "I'd rather go to hell. I can help more people there." How funny is that? He literally said that in an interview. But so I guess lesson learned: don't take yourself too seriously. But the last thing on how do you keep constantly changing? For some reason, this always stands out in my mind when someone was like, "Do you think Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos at the time when Amazon was doing really well, Larry Page surgery, all these people that are doing amazing things or built amazing companies?" The author asked, "Do you think they have more time in the day than you do? Do you think they work on a longer clock?" And that really twisted my brain of how, well, think about the most successful people in the world. They don't have more time. They actually probably have less time than we do because they read more and they sleep longer. And so what are they doing? So part of me is like, well, I want to get to that level eventually. So I'm constantly pushing to be either more efficient or learn something new or trying something new. And does it always work? No. Longboarding was awful. I had to present one day where I had fallen and done a barrel roll and hurt one of my arms. And I was like, this is probably 10 years ago too. So I'm like in my 30s where I'm like, I got to stop trying this stuff. But also I'm like, no, I always want to keep trying stuff because that's what makes life fun. Be like Keith at the gym. There's a guy at the gym I used to hate. He'd grunt and stuff. I'm like, Keith, shut up while you're working out. Well, turns out he's the nicest guy, and we talk all the time now. One day I'm like, and I think he's in his 70s or he's 70. And I was, Keith, you're always here. Like, how long do you work out? And he's like, well, for 4 hours. And I damn near fell off the bench. I'm like, 4 hours, Keith? Like, you spend more time here than I do with my wife. And he was like, well, I'm retired. And, well, to be honest, I need to spend an hour on my back and my abs. And I just had this moment of like, Keith gets it, though. He's happy. And I feel like, oh, now we're really getting into it. I'm sorry. It's Tony Robbins has a blog post or a podcast with Tim Ferriss where he gets mad and he says, we're all looking for achievement. Everyone's pitched achievement. You got to achieve. You got to do something. You got to become something. You got to go somewhere. And he's mad because he's like, we've lost so many good people because no one told him that it's fulfillment. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It has everything to do with you. And he gets mad about the Robin Williams situation where there's people in this world that kept going and pushing because the world was telling them they need to achieve. And Tony sits back and says, you need to look for fulfillment. What makes you happy at the end of the day? What makes you smile? And I like it because it's the first time I think I've ever heard Tony Robbins actually get upset. But he was like, that's his problem with our world, is that we just want to be better than everybody else. We always want to be at the top. And I think that's one of my biggest lessons would be understand what fulfillment means to you. Understand what's going to make you happy. What are you going to smile at the end of the day? What's going to fill your cup? And if it is achieving, if it is beating other people, well, just know that can't last forever. And at one point, that's going to be really sad. I was big sports like hockey, volleyball growing. I coached for almost 10 years. So I always had a competitive part of my life. And when you take that away, it's not like you're not competitive anymore. You're just channeling that passion, that energy into something else. Again, long-winded answer. I apologize.
Have you heard about the infinite game by Simon Sinek? So like, it's this whole idea that there's a finite game. There are arbitrary numbers where there's a goal, or if you take an example of business, you got to hit the sales target. And there's the infinite game where people are involved. Are you fulfilled? You take care of people or not. So I love that idea.
Well, it's like, do you think your favorite author just, bears down for 2 months, writes the book and says, well, thank God I'm done now. I like the idea of, was it like Stephen King's whole, like, he had a 7-day routine because he never changed it. He'd wake up, have his breakfast, and he'd write for 4 hours. Then he was good. He'd do whatever he want. But every day he wrote. Jerry Seinfeld. Now, this has been refuted because I think someone said Jerry didn't actually say that, but he said after Jerry was famous and like there's a young budding comedian said, hey, I bet you it's nice now that you can just kind of ride the coattails. And he said, I write a joke every day. If you do work, again, chop wood, carry water. If you do something of what you care about every single day, eventually you'll be a success. But most of us, we say, no, I need a day off, or no, I can't, or no. But again, you're probably not following your life path then. Once you figure out what your life path is, you can do it every day.
So what does fulfillment mean to you?
Helping people. If I'm in a bad mood, usually it's go to the gym, but in a day, if I'm upset or grumpy, all I have to do is write a handwritten postcard to somebody that I care about. And you'd be surprised how much that flips you. A part of Strat Lab, we've always had this outcare model where we are allowed to work with nonprofits and we're allowed to sometimes pick the price on it now. Now, in the past, I've been very bad for that because I would just say, oh, I like you. I just want to help. Not good for business. Now, I haven't done that. Well, I've done that about a month ago. There's a student group that needed help, and I said, sure, I want to help. I believe in you guys. But I feel like it goes back to my philosophy on business has always been rooted in do things that you can brag to your mom about. My mom does not care what my title is. She doesn't care how many zeros are in my paycheck. She doesn't care where I park. She doesn't care what's on my business card. She cares who I'm helping. And so when I had that Mosaic
Cool.
Yeah, when I got I still remember where I was in my house when I got the phone call and when they told me I'd be making $3,500 a month in university with relatively no expenses. You guys, I was rich. I bought so much oh, it's so embarrassing to admit. I bought so much Bud Light that you basically came to my house, it would always be like, just have a drink. Like the only person in my life at that moment told me that I'm not going to be happy was my mom. And I think she knew. My joke is, well, she married an accountant. So my dad's an accountant. She's like, you are not like your father. So this is not the be all, the end all. And so I've always kind of, in my mind, it's what can I brag to my mom about? And so she worked in the disability sector all her life. And so we work a lot in the disability sector now. But I do, in the back of my mind, it's always like, we land a major project. If I told my mom, hey, Mom, we landed this project for 20 grand, she's going to roll her eyes at me and say, Jeph, I don't care. But if I say, hey, Mom, I just joined this board for Time Raiser that's going to help a whole bunch more people volunteer, and it's a really cool organization, she's going to give me that smile like, I'm worth it. Like, that's my son doing it. So I don't know. I feel like we all need a North Star of what that is. Also, I feel like you guys would be in that category too. I feel like most of my friend circle growing up and now, to me, they're all successful. You got a good head on your shoulders. You're smart. You dress well. Like, you guys got to understand, we are in that top percentage that we're very lucky. And so I truly believe that if you've been dealt a good hand, the only way it's actually yours is if you give it back. And if you actually care about the next generation or whatever it is. And so I don't know. There's a part of me I always assume that today could be my last day. And if that happens, what was my what will people care about? Well, I've helped a lot of people along the way. I think I can die happy because I've put a lot out there. And I know it's getting really deep, but at the same time, what are we all in this for? Really, to make money? You can't take it with you. There's a lot of coffins that go into the ground with no money in them. So what are those people doing? It's memories and the people and the relationships and helping others. So yeah, I feel like this should be a class though at one point, maybe like first year university or late in high school. It's like, what is purpose in most people's lives?
What would you call it? Purpose 101?
Purpose 101 or, like, I don't want to make any religious jokes, but I'm like, uptake on religion is going down and down and down. And I came from a very religious background up until grade 6.
Are you yourself religious?
No, not at all. But the quick backstory on that is we call it a cult. It probably wasn't a cult, but we followed Judaism tradition up until grade 6. So up until grade 6, I wasn't allowed to celebrate Christmas. When my elementary school would sing Christmas carols, I was excused from it. There was rules where there was a week where you couldn't eat anything with leavening in it. There was a day where you were not to eat. The Day of Atonement. It was literally the worst day of my life. I've always been a fat kid. You're not let a fat kid eat for a whole day. And then grade 6, there's a schism in the church, and my parents left. And so up until grade 6, also my brothers, and they played pretty high level hockey. They could never play on Friday nights because you had to keep the Sabbath from Friday night to Saturday night. So my disdain for religion isn't because I don't like religion, because I do believe it's very powerful. And I've crossed the chasm of I'm not trying to convince my parents out of it. I believe it is a very good thing for some people, but for others, it's fine if you don't, as long as you're spiritual in some way. And that to me is what's missing from a lot. I do think I'm spiritual. I have moments and I have talks with the universe. But also early on, when I stopped going to church with my parents, that's immediately when I started coaching volleyball. And in my mind was, are you going to impact the world better than going to a place that you don't really feel welcome? No, I shouldn't say that. I always felt welcome. Going to a place where you're just going to listen to somebody talk for an hour and a half. They're going to ask for money and you're going to say, no, I'm broke. And you're going to leave. Do you think you're going to make the world better by doing that? Or can you show up to a gym and help a bunch of young kids that are figuring out what you had to figure out, and you're going to coach them and push them and stretch them to make them better athletes and better humans? So for myself, it was, can I just do that? And so maybe it was a little bit of like the guilt from leaving the church and not going and hanging out with my parents, but to remind them that you did raise a good kid. I do care about the community, and I always want to help people. You don't have to be a part of religion to do that. You can just do that. And that's why I said, like, I feel like, as my mom calls, I feel like you have to be in touch with your own spirituality, but you almost have to look at the universe and say, hey, I'm helping, okay? And at any time, the universe can say, well, what are you doing? But at one point, that can go way too, because work wasn't good, I just volunteered. So at one point, I was like the president of 2 different organizations. I was coaching 2 different teams, StratLab's still not making any money, and I'm struggling to make it. And so at that point, I was like, I burnt out and quit. So there is a point where I think you can give too much. And I do like Adam Grant in Give and Take talks about, on average, 2 hours a week. After that, you might think you're getting a lot of benefit from it, but you're probably not. But I do think we all should be volunteering at least 2 hours a week. Just signed up to read books to kids. There's a reading program that my friend was a part of, and I'm like, ooh, that could be a lot of fun.
Is that in Regina?
Yeah.
What is it called?
She's a part of, there's a Dolly Parton reading company that basically ensures you get books as a kid up until like 5 or something. Don't quote me on that because I could be wrong, but she's a part of this reading program where you go and find kids that need help. They just basically need to be partnered with a buddy that can read to them. And I was like, well, I'm pretty good at reading and I believe in books and I read Harry Potter every night to my daughter. So I'm like, oh, sign me up. And again, it's just 2 hours a week. So I'm like, I can carve that into my schedule. So yeah, you can be spiritual without being religious, but you have to be something. I do feel people that aren't happy in life, and we even find it with employees. If they don't volunteer, if they don't see the marginalized sector, you don't have this thing that you can't buy. It's called perspective. You can't pay for it. You have to experience it. And the only way you experience it is, at one point, I disagreed with what my parents were doing at church so much, but I also believed in the service side of it. So I would volunteer with their church to go serve meals at Souls Harbor because my internal dialogue was, I don't think they should be doing it, but I do feel like you need to almost call your own bullshit and say, well, why not? What don't you believe about it? I still have recipes I got from doing that because the ladies at the church, while we were doing the dishes and all this stuff, they would give me what they were making. And they thought they were just conversing with me. I remember that stuff. And so when you're whatever you're doing, there's always a selfish side of, at the time, I like baking cupcakes. And I still have the best cupcake recipe from this one lady. Full circle. Eventually you can make better cupcakes if you volunteer.
So I want to talk to you about CareCon. Yeah. What is that? Yeah, tell us more about
the Caring Conference. So when we first started Strategy Lab, we would just like, hey, we do website and social media, hire us. And then we started Big Idea Camp, which was it's a high school camp for students that want to learn about business. We run it at a cultivator. We've done it we'll be in our 11th year this year. But we started it on a whim of, this doesn't exist, let's just do it. It's a lost leader for us. Like, we don't make money off it, but it's a way people figure out who we are and what we believe in. About 5 years into Strat Lab, or it might have been even longer, Brandon was like, hey, I think all that bullshit stuff we do works. I had this moment of like, it took you 6 years to figure out that caring about your community is the way that you get the community care about you? No, I'm not upset. And so this past year, earlier in the year, we were like, well, and we used to do, there's a couple guys on the radio, Justin and Wheels. Back in the day, they were doing a really cool thing. They had their own show, and I wanted to work with them. So we did this thing called the Honest Conference. And that's where we had Mark Heisey on stage in tears talking about how much he loves his team, because his team were in there. But we basically did a one day, it was a morning of just getting people to be like, tell your story honestly. Out of that came 2 years later, we were like, we need to do something else. And we work with so much in the nonprofit sector, and we knew so many people had a good story to tell. So we just called it the Caring Conference, because we wanted to give a pedestal to some of these organizations we look up to, and we wanted to show the rest of the community there's some really cool stuff here. Running a conference is a lot harder than you think. We didn't have any sponsors. We just basically booked a room, thought we might lose some money on it, sold it out, so we basically broke even, but we got so many stories out of it that. And like the one real quick was Sylvia from Black Donors Save Lives. She came from Toronto and spoke about how I met with her months before, and she was like, Jeph, I have this nonprofit and I just need help. And I was like, I just want to help. That was one of the ones we were like, can we just build a website for you? You're too good. You don't know it yet. But we basically were her cheerleader. And then she moves to Toronto. She's in med school. She gets a grant to take this thing like Canada wide, and turns out I learned this at CareCon though. She went to the Red Cross annual general meeting and told them that they had discriminatory policies. She went to that meeting 3 times over, telling them the same message you need to change. How many times have you done something, not on a national level, that you're like, okay, I'll change my mind. Sylvia is one of those ones that if she believes in something, you can't convince her wrong. And she was right. By the third annual general meeting with the board, it was the CEO of the board chair at the time, messaged her privately and said, would you be a part of this new committee we're starting? We heard you and we want to change. So she was one of our speakers, and that was the story she got to tell a whole group of nonprofit folks, is that if you know you're right, if you know you believe in something, go tell the CEO of the Red Cross of Canada they're wrong. And they're not going to listen to you the first time and probably not the second time. But the third time, it's like that attitude of, well, how did you get through the hard times? Well, if you know you're right, just keep going. And I know it's going to be hard, but life, there's nothing in life that is easy. There's nothing that's going to be, and again, she cares about it through and through. And now she's got like a whole group of young people right across Canada basically saying, hey, we have some policies that need to change on how we're donating blood. And also, people of color don't donate stem cells the way Caucasian people do. So it's more of a call to action to say, hey, have you looked into stem cell? Have you looked into donating? Because there's a lot of people that don't. So that was like one of the cool moments that came out of it. But the way we market is we create moments in time that people can't forget. And did we nail it on the head? No, it could have been better for sure. The story always tells, like the first year Big Idea Camp, we had 6 students. The running joke is we could literally put them all in a minivan. That's it. That's camp. So in my mind, it was an utter failure. But the first one was 2 of the girls that came from Campbell Business stayed till like 5:30 that night. And at one point I looked at them, I'm like, do you guys even have a ride coming? Like, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh no, we drove. We parked out there. We're having fun hanging out. And I just had this moment of like, you're talking about like, we all need a community. These 2 students could have been anywhere else in the world. And think grade 12. You couldn't have put me, I didn't want to talk to any professional. But these 2 students were hanging out with Jordy and myself, learning about how it was to do what we did. And I just always have this moment of like, weren't we lucky? Weren't we so lucky that 2 individuals wanted to spend time there? And so as much as I'm like, well, it was 6 students, like it was a failure. Everyone else on the outside said, oh my God, you do Big Idea Camp. Oh my God, I can't believe you do that camp. And I'm always like, 6 students. You could have ran more. If you're a teacher, you could have ran more today. But that's not what people see. And so the other one is go look at how many projects and business lines Google has shut down. They have effectively shut down more than they have kept running. So to me, that tells me you need to try more things that you know that are going to be successful because you don't know what's going to be unsuccessful. And so the idea to try things because no one talks about your failures after. No one goes, you're that guy from the Marketing Revolution podcast. You're the guy that quit. No one ever listened to it though. But you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
in life, you may as well try to do as much as you can and build the biggest thing you can, because even if you fail, very few and if you do have people in your life talk about your failures, they're not friends. They're assholes. And very few people will do that and be like, hey, I remember you messed up. Like, no one does that.
Right.
What they do is they look at you and like, what do I remember successful about the guy? And so I my own self-reflection is like, I feel like StratLab, we failed on literally every single thing you could fail on. From how you file your tax to how you apply for GS. There's nothing we didn't fail on, but we never gave up. And so eventually you become a success. But most people think, well, it has to happen right away. It has to. I'm like, I was paying credit cards off till I want to say like 6-7 years into the business. Like it was not successful for a long time. Even still, I'm like, it doesn't feel, and I don't self-identify as an entrepreneur because I don't think I am. Without Brandon, I wouldn't be here. And so the other story is the 1 year, so I shouldn't say that. I paid my tax on time for the last 2 years. I've paid installments for the first time ever this year. For the first, I want to say 7-8 years, I couldn't afford to pay my tax on time. And I know people are like, yeah, but you go to jail if you do that. No, you don't. The government does not want to put you in jail. The government asks, when are you going to pay us? And then you just be honest with them and say, well, I can't afford it, but over the next 6 months, I'll pay you back. And they say, oh, that's better. You actually answered your phone. Most of the people don't care about paying their tax. I had this idea. Dad's an accountant. I had to pay it. I can't get out of it. but also it was hard. But in my mind, I'm like, what if you tell the tax man, I literally have no money right now. What are you going to garner? What are you going to do? They're not dumb. They'll help you with that. But the 1 year, I started paying off credit cards that year. And at one point, I feel like I was 40 or 50 grand in debt, and not the good debt, like awful debt. And my tax bill came up. And that's when I was like, this is too much. Like, I'm going to declare bankruptcy and we'll move on. I'll find a different job. And I told Brandon that. And he's like, well, how much do you need to pay for tax? I'm like, well, man, it's like 10 grand. The next day he shows up at my apartment with a $10,000 check. And he's like, we're not giving up this soon. Go pay it off. And I just had this moment of like, you care that much about our business that you weren't, he could have at that point just said like, you're an idiot with money. Just get lost. But he didn't. He obviously saw something in what we were doing and he believed in it. And so it's like, when's the last time you cut one of your friends or business partners a $10,000 check, not knowing what would happen with that? Doesn't happen for a lot of us, but Brandon is, to me, the reason why StratLab is successful. I would say he's the entrepreneur. He's the one that does everything. I just show up every now and then, do some presentations and help out. But I feel at one point having a good business partner that with good business sense is literally the best decision you could ever make. Even that you guys are doing this together, I think is so much smarter. And a lot of the business people will say, well, don't give equity away. Don't give equity away. You know, what's there's an analogy. Do you want a whole grape or do you want part of a watermelon? Because you can have a tiny little grape all to yourself, or you could be a part of something bigger. And for myself, I didn't want to, I knew I don't think I could ever do it on my own. I don't want to do it on my own. Not fun. But the fact that even you guys are working together, I think is so cool. Don't discount that fact. And don't listen to someone that's going to say, you need to make sure you have a contract between the two because he's going to fuck you over. No, you can believe in the better part of people.
I feel like there's always like different perspectives. Like there's people like, you mentioned only focus on the negatives, and you yourself, you're like, what if it turns out in a much better way or the complete opposite way? And I know for a fact that in every single episode, I can count on Nikhil every single time. Like I have no speck of doubt in my mind.
There's a psychological term for that. Pronoia. Do you know paranoia?
Yeah.
That's, everyone's going to get me. Like someone's
Right.
Pronoia is the opposite.
Right.
Someone's going to help me.
No, yeah, because
might-
I feel really calm and collective when I'm shooting an episode, because I know for a fact when I go into thinking mode, like, hey, like he said that really interesting thing, and that's like churning in my head. He's got me. He already has another question ready for us.
Smart.
Yeah, so I feel like that's what really keeps us going, is that we have each other's back in the sense that there's no like we have to give each other signals or anything. Like I know he got me. I know
You've
I
been
got
giving
him.
signals the whole time.
What do you- That's funny. But you know that
The teleprompter behind me, right?
that's funny. But you know what's crazy? Like your story about failure reminds me. I think I told you about this, but have you heard of the story about WD-40, the lubricant?
The name is based on
39 failures. Yeah, it's insane. Like I feel like that's what really like gets me going in the sense too, is that there's a quote out there like, if you knew that you were 100 failures away from success, how fast would you want to fail? And the name itself, like WD-40, people think it's like, oh, it's just like numbers or like whatever, like a chemical compound or something. No, it's 39 failures, and then they perfected the lubricant or the compound on the 40th try. Well, they could have given up 38 times, 37 times, 36 times, like, but they didn't, right? Like that's the whole point.
But I mean, the sad part is how many businesses do you see that just quit or they go under, and they could have been one iteration away from doing it?
One advice for
And
those
that's-
people.
I don't know if I have advice for them, because I feel like they probably didn't quit because they didn't believe it anymore. They probably quit for a personal reason that they couldn't control anymore. And I don't want to say doing your own thing and even having the privilege to be able to iterate 30 times over, to me in this day and age, that is a privilege. And there's people in this world that they can't just go and create. They have to bring home money for the family. And so my heart goes out to them. I still feel like, though, there's a part of education and learning and teaching yourself, whatever it is, that you can avoid those moments too. And that's where I feel like, I don't want to say that quitting is easy, but I do feel at times, actually, but the opposite is, there's a really good podcast from the Freakonomics guys on the upside of quitting, on how we generally stay too long in relationships. We try to do things too long. We're afraid to quit. So there's a part of me that's like, at times maybe we should have quit, but
You know, there's this thing called the Regent Beta paradox.
Go on.
So basically, this podcaster we follow, his name's Chris Williamson, and he talks about this fact that majority of the people in life, they basically stick in relationships or stick in jobs that is giving them the bare minimum. Like say for example that you go to a job and the boss is not too much of an asshole. It pays the bills. It's somewhat related to what you do, but it's not fully aligned with your why. So you get complacent and you get stuck in those jobs. But what Chris Williamson tells, like, I don't think he like created this paradox, but like he talks about this a lot, that those people are better off in worse situations than being stuck in region beta. Like if you by for some reason had to get laid off of your job, or one day you just thought like, you know what, fuck it, I'm done. Like you mentioned, like you broke up with Mosaic and you just quit. Well, that pushes you to actually like get in more tune with your why. That pushes you to like get what you want out of
100%.
life. But complacency and being stuck in so-called region beta, even in relationships too, like you may think like, hey, it's not the worst. Like she doesn't hate me, I don't hate her. We're chilling. But I know for a fact that's not my person. Like I'm still not getting that 100. It's not a. It's either not. It's either a fuck yes or a fuck no.
That's what it is. Derek Sivers. Hell yeah or no. And that one of the best books ever. What is it? Anything You Want. And he tells the story. Oh my, he has so many good stories in that. But his whole decision making is if it's not hell yeah, it's a no.
Yeah, there's no in betweens.
Can I pee? Is that a thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Derek Sivers had the best story in that book though is about how he was like an efficiency mantra, like he was more efficient than you, he gets stuff done faster. On his way to bike, he lived in Santa Monica and he had the nicest bike on the way to work every day, and what he would do, he'd put his head down, he would bike as fast as he could to get there every day. One day it dawned on him to say, I don't know why I need to be there that fast. So he took his time and he enjoyed the bike ride and looked around and he realized this is the most beautiful landscape ever. He also timed himself every day. The day he didn't rush to work was 2 minutes longer than what he was doing before. And he said how many beautiful places he had not seen because he was so focused on go, 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 go. And so to me, I do feel like you can try to out efficient, you can try to bike faster than anybody else, but that's not what life's about. Life's about enjoying the flowers along the way.
Well, you said like be present, be in the moment.
Yeah. Try to. Yeah, sure, you have an end goal, but you should also care about how you're being a part of it on the way. You should also just smell the roses a little.
Okay, I want to ask you this. What's with the lottery tickets?
I can tell you the first time.
Do you have any right now, just so people can see?
I do.
Because I'm like,
I always
people
have
need to
them.
know what the hell that's about.
I always
Look
have
at that.
one for you, one for you.
Perfect. I feel lucky already.
1 year during Christmas, a fella by the name of Randy Klippenstein from Captive Audience said, "Hey, Jeph, Merry Christmas." He gave me a lottery ticket. And I giggled and I said, "Randy, this is the best idea ever. I'm a gambler. I have a moment. I could win 10 grand in this moment." And he's like, walks away. And I just had this moment of like, wow, of all the things you can give somebody, give them the idea that they could do something bigger. And so it just created this moment in time that I'd never forgotten. At the time, I never liked business. My joke in university was like, you know what we use business cards for, right? Filters for joints. Like you don't need business cards. And if you're cool, literally it's the filter. Like anybody who knows. But the idea of there's the movie American Psycho when it's like, oh, your business cards.
Oh, I remember that
Your
scene,
business-
man. Holy
oh.
shit.
Like why?
I love that movie though.
And I had one boss at one point that made rounded corners. Like, yeah, because it'll stand out amongst the rest of them. It's like, if you need your business card to be different sizes, like you're missing the point of marketing. And then my favorite artist at one point, Hugh MacLeod, we got business card with his art on the other side. So every business card was different, which is cool. So I could leave those out after a presentation. People could grab them. But to be honest, it was always like, I always went back to lottery tickets. And then anytime I present, the always rule was you have to give something away. And so for trivia, I'd give lottery tickets. And so to the point now, my favorite one now, I presented in Edmonton for a conference. And I had this idea where I'm like, I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to hide lottery tickets under everybody's chair.
Oh, that's cool.
And I did it. And at the end, it was the Oprah Winfrey meme of like, you get a lottery ticket. Everybody gets a lottery. And so they all went underneath. And so I feel like in that moment in time, Yeah, it worked because I got booked for another one for the same.
There we go.
I'm like, so it technically worked, but I feel like, what do you spend on meeting a stranger? Generally, most of us spend nothing. Most of us don't even look at strangers, which I think is awful. So the first step is to say hi and to have a moment, or overly excited, hi. On my way to work, it's the best. I always, good morning. And you get people, good morning. And it's like, okay, go back to bed. That, and there's a whole book on a gift, on how our ancestors, 100, 200 years ago, think about this moment. We wouldn't have met unless I had given you something, or we exchanged something, or I said, I appreciate you guys. Have some beef, or have some whatever I was giving you at the time. And I feel like we've lost that in business. And so a part of this, I do think, and on a better day, I would have made you cookies or brought you pickles. I make my own spicy pickles and carrots. But the idea of giving someone a gift, to me, is lost on a lot of people. And I feel like if you want to stand out in this world, figure out what your thing is. And there's part of me, like, I love getting gifts. I love the whole idea of surprising somebody with something. And so yeah, it's my way of saying to people, you don't need a business card. Well, what if I want to get a hold of you? You're going to Google me. You're not going to use your business card anyway. And so people are like, oh my God, that's genius. I'm like, not my idea, Randy Klippenstein. So yeah, I literally spend thousands of dollars a year on lottery tickets. But as funny as it sounds, if you were in part of one of my presentations in the last 10 years, you probably didn't forget that moment because it was so weird.
Right. It's out there.
But that's why it matters, because it's different. And no one's won $10,000 yet. So eventually, so I give them to strangers. Like if you're at the front desk at the hotel and you treat me really nicely, you're getting a lottery ticket. Eventually, one of those random winners is going to win 10 grand, and you're going to read about it, or you're going to hear about it on the news somewhere. Someone's going to say, this guy won 10 grand from a stranger. You're immediately going to go, oh, it worked. It hasn't worked yet.
Right.
But it'll work eventually, because the law of large number states that eventually these have to pay off. I don't know when. But I think that is the funniest thing, that, I don't know, somebody will eventually win it.
Right. That's awesome. Have you heard that phrase, round pegs in square holes?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like, there's this idea that if there's a square hole,
Yeah.
there has to be a square peg in it. But you can also put in a round peg in there.
Right.
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 It just fit in there, right?
It's the job, that's in the Jobs, the famous speech.
Right.
Here's to the crazy ones.
Here's the crazy one.
That's an art print. One of the only art prints I've ever purchased was when he died. Hugh MacLeod made an art print of that whole speech, and he used to hang up. I'm getting chills talking about it, because those words echo in my head of, he's cheersing us. I'm one of the crazy ones, and Jobs is cheersing me based on that.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like my question, because like Steve Jobs, you, and all these great entrepreneurs, people who have changed the
He's
world.
not an entrepreneur.
Not entrepreneur.
Yeah,
You know,
careful,
right.
man.
Not just
He's
them.
changed the world, but though.
I think Patch Adams. Have you watched Patch Adams?
No.
Oh yeah, I love Patch Adams.
The moment where he drops down with the nose on, and the lady goes and starts laughing. He's a doctor that believed in, you don't just need to be a doctor. You need to be a human. And I love that movie so much. My son's middle name is Patch.
Oh, cool.
After Patch Adams, because even if I pass away, I want Atlas at one point to say, why is my middle name Patch? And I'm like, buddy, you were named after the funniest doctor ever that believed in treating the human, not just the disease, which I think is very powerful. No matter what you're doing, there's always a human at the end of it. If you're doing marketing, there's a human you're dealing with. Never forget that. And never forget to wear your red nose if you can.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that movie. That's such an underrated movie.
Never seen it.
So it's basically like about how a doctor who doesn't treat patients traditionally, he treats patients by laughter, by connecting with them. He believes that
He's
you
the
have
top
to
of his
connect.
class, too, and he never studies. And the rest of the students hate him. But he's a genius because he sees what's next.
So is the movie based on like all placebo or something?
It's based on a true story. It's
Really?
actually a
Well,
real
he's
guy.
a great doctor,
Oh, he
but
is.
he also believes in connecting with patients as
Right.
humans.
Okay.
Like, what's he has for the gynecologist convention,
Oh.
he's got two giant legs and you walk through.
Through a vagina.
Oh, that's crazy.
But it's the idea of, there's a human at the end of everything. Never forget that. Especially the people that are easily missed. The front of house staff, the person taking you to your table. The people that aren't going to get a thank you, we should all be giving them a thank you. And that's where I feel like Patch Adams is always care about the humans, and especially the ones that no one cares about. that's going to give you a lot of power in life, I think, is helping those people. Nothing other than making sure they know that they were seen. As funny as that sounds.
You know, you mentioned one thing that I really, really like is your mom didn't care about the numbers in your bank account or what big project that you landed, but the people that you're actually helping. And you mentioned, you know, those are like, that's what I brag about to my mom. What's been the biggest brag that you've ever done in front of her? That you were like, damn, this is gonna really like make her happy.
Well, I think the biggest one that actually probably changed lives in this world, it's about 4 years ago now, or 5. We had worked with the Human Rights Foundation, HRF, yeah, Human Rights Foundation, like international, and there was a list of clothing manufacturers that use forced labor in China. It basically take advantage of the like Uyghur forced labor situation. Yeah. But these were verified by them, and they asked us to say, could you make a Chrome plugin that would basically alert your browser if you were on a site that was using this? And usually what we say when we have a challenging project that we don't know, yes, of course we can create that. And at the time, Connor was working with us, and he's a genius. So it's just funny because we hired him out of high school, still a genius. And he built this plugin that was the Uyghur forced labor checker. At first, it launches, and we're like, do we have any legal ramifications here? Because we're basically calling out some of the biggest brands in the world. But it was vetted through HRF, and there was a part of me that's like, we're calling out literally the biggest companies in the world saying, change, or you're going to be on our list. Well, they came back and said about 2 months in, they had one of these major retailers in the US came to them and said, we're willing to change. What do we need to do? So I got to tell a kid that was freshly out of high school, do you know that you actually might have saved some lives? And what do you mean? Well, that Chrome plugin actually changed the course of an actual company in the United States that wanted to stop what they were doing in China.
Are you allowed to give the name out?
Of the company?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't tell us. Which I'm like, at that point, I'm like, I didn't care. It was more of a, cool, they have a precedent for putting societal pressure on organizations to say you shouldn't be doing that. I think now with the rise of social media, like it's so easy to share those stories now of when people are being taken advantage of. But that one I think I was most proud of, also because somebody in their early 20s built this thing. And I know, well, I can't do that. I don't know. It's like, well, you can figure it out. Connor did. And so he left. I wouldn't say he's no longer with us. No, he's still alive. Still a good friend. But I look up to that moment too, because we said yes to something. We had no idea how to do it. We figured it out, and then we actually created change, which I think is so cool. I like Sylvia's story about how she's actually helping people right across Canada, a marginalized community, talk about why they should be donating blood. Creative Options Regina, we've been working with them for over 10 years now. They've gone from 40 people in their office to over 400 employees. They're on the top, like one of our main customers or clients for the last 10 years is one of the top 100 managed companies in Canada. Like that's wild to think that, and they're just down the road here on Broad. That would be actually a good interview. Talk to Michael. Yeah. But again, they're a disability community, but a completely different methodology on how you deal with that. They've always been a pride point for us, just based on how. It was actually my mom's friends. She had this whole group of friends that always hung out, and they always traveled together for the years. They called them the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or something. But one of her friends at one point at my mom's house, she's like, "Oh my God, you got to check out this new organization. They treat people so well." And I was like, "What's it called?" And they're like, Creative Options Regina. And I'm like, Helen, we work with them. I should be telling you about. But it was my mom's friends who had worked with another agency. She was telling me about my client saying, you got to find out about these guys. That was a cool moment to say to my mom, we're their marketing partner. Like, we get to help them. So I don't know. Those ones, I mean, still, like, if I look at who we're working with, like, small one, Majestic's Car Show. Ooh, what do they do? Well, they have a volunteer board where after they pay for the location of where they're doing it, all of their money goes back to the community. Like, I find out moments like that where I'm like, I just want to be wealthy enough that I can just say, I want to take care of you. I want to help out. And for them, it was just we can tell your story. We're going to do a ton with you. There's our roster is a ton of nonprofits that we get to work with, which are.
Do you ever get emotional when you see like the?
I get emotional
change
all
in-
the time. I'm very Mrs. Doubtfire, crying baby. The Undoing Project by Michael Lewis, crying like a baby. Doesn't take. You don't have kids, do you?
No.
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 Yeah, no. Once you become a dad, you become very emotional, and everything makes you cry. And so, do I get emotional? Probably. But finish your question now.
No, I mean my whole point was like, because you've done some great initiatives, like you've actually mentioned like changing lives, being part of organizations that people don't see profit in, but you see the goal, you see the end vision, like you see the mission and the statement behind it. And when you actually see that happening to fruition and then seeing the results, they were thinking like, damn dude, like that's fucking insane. Like in my lifetime, I'm getting to do this. Because that's the whole point of like the legacy that you're talking about too, right? Like if you look back at a reflection point, that you've been alive for,
Way too long.
Yeah, no, not that. Like I hope you live a long, happy, healthy life. But in your time span so far that you've achieved so much, and you look back at it, you're like, damn, like shit, like that's that actually happened. Like it's currently happening too.
This might be a really weird example, but for some reason, have you guys seen Schindler's List?
Oh yeah. It's awesome. I haven't seen it yet.
Do you remember the end when Oscar is taken away and he's pleading, this could have been another Jew. This car could have been another Jew. As much as I look back and, we've done some things, we have lots of work to do, and the world still needs a big hug. I think a lot of people need a big hug. And so this, to a fault, we are horrible at celebrating successes. You can ask and this would be like, Jeph, what are some of your negatives? I'm like, we don't celebrate anything. We're too busy trying to figure out what's next and help out people that we never sit back and say, well, what's the StratLab anniversary? If you look at our socials, we've never celebrated an anniversary. We don't apply for awards. I don't believe in awards. Awards are a way to fake it that you think you're something that you're not. Our biggest award is having somebody hire us back on. So as much as I want to get like all sentimental of all the organizations we've helped, there's an Oscar Schindler in me saying, sell the ring, save someone else, do something else. You don't want to go to your deathbed with, and actually, oh my God, there's a book I just finished called The 5 Biggest Regrets of Dying. And there's this awful story of this man who worked all his life. He had 5 kids and worked and worked and worked. They were rich, and his wife pleaded with him to retire, and he finally agreed to retire next year. Well, turns out she got cancer in that year and didn't make it that year. And he now has to live with the fact that he never, ever got to take her on that trip that he promised. I do feel like understanding death, and there's the Tibetan book of living and dying, I think is brilliant. But to understand that our time on earth is fickle. It could be gone any moment. So instead of looking back and patting myself, I actually want to look forward and say, who else could I help now? What's the next thing? Or as StratLab moves forward, we're becoming a major organization that can do some really good work. And sometimes really good work is just saving people a marketing budget they don't need because we just want to be honest with them. And so not to downplay the, hey, oh wow, look at how good Big Idea Camp was. No, I know there's a bunch of kids that are lost out there right now that I want them to come to Big Idea Camp to show them you don't have to be lost. You can figure out your own little path. And so I know it's a bad answer, but maybe that's the Romanian Ukrainian in me of there's always someone else to feed. There's always another cup that's empty I need to help fill. And I feel like my ancestors would be very proud of that. And I don't know, I get very sentimental about where we've come from and who was a part of our families. And whatever you're a part of, I guarantee you have ancestors looking down on you. And I feel like my grandparents especially would want me to keep going because I've been given a gift. I don't know how you guys were raised, but I hit the jackpot for coaches and for sports. I literally, like, sometimes you're like, well, how do you keep going? I'm like, well, because I literally hit the lottery for my coaches. I had one of the best volleyball coaches in the province at the time. Like, I still have moments where if I didn't have my upbringing, I wouldn't be here. So it's almost like I owe it to my parents to show them that it wasn't all for nothing. And my coaches to say, I still remember stuff you told me in practice. I still take what you've taught me. And so again, we've all been dealt a hand. If you've been lucky, you need to pay that forward. And that's the coolest part. If you have the privilege to do that, you're going to keep getting that back again and again. Horrible way to answer a question. I'm sorry about that.
It just reminds me of one of the speeches from Bill Gates, and he talks about the power of luck. So he was in one of the only schools in the United States that had a computer. And that's like a huge coincidence. If he wasn't there, then we wouldn't have Microsoft. We wouldn't have the whole company, right? And he says that to whom much is given, much is expected, right?
100%.
Like, I feel like I don't think we both had like great coaches and all that stuff, but we were still lucky because coming from India, like there's a lot of people who still don't have food on the table. Like it's still almost a third world country.
Kudos to parents, right?
Kudos to our parents. Like we had so much luck, great parents, great community that we had the opportunity to come to Canada. And it's our job now to change lives over here.
100%. But that's the ticket to success, though, is to help change someone's life for the better. And in my philosophy is the money will come, but if you can focus on helping people and making them better, you'll figure out the economic engine at one point. I just think most people look at, well, I need to make money at this. And then you have business owners saying, I don't want to pay you to do that. You don't care. And I feel like if you cared first, if you tried to help people first, you'll figure out the rest after. But again, it's Purpose 101 or whatever the class we need to teach. How are you going to care? How are you going to care about, first of all, yourself? Because the other thing is that what the story about millionaires, that they sell out their companies, and what happens the next day? Ray Kroc, I just finished his book. He was, when at the end, when he's on his deathbed, he was still going into McDonald's checking things. Here's a guy that literally could do anything in the world. What he wanted to do was work. Work. I just think work gets a bad title. When people are like, oh, you're working on a Sunday. I'm like, I have the privilege. I have the absolute privilege to be able to work on a Sunday. That's amazing. But back to your story on luck. I feel like maybe this might be my non-traditional belief. I feel like luck plays into way more of what we're talking about and anybody's success. Like, if you look at my trajectory, there would have been an easier path. There's one amazing, my favorite university professor, Al Durgis. We were going to work together at one point. I was going out to his house in Lumsden. He would give me books, and I was going back and forth with him. Got diagnosed with cancer. Never met with him. We were going to work with this company. Didn't work with this company. He sadly passed away. But the cool story with him, though, here's a prof that only taught one class a semester. When we put a call out after he had passed away to talk about Al's class, every single person, other than maybe a couple, agreed to doing it. Think about university classes you've been in. How many of those classes, of the students in those classes, would be willing to talk about the professor after? I don't think very many. I've taught a class, and I don't think people would talk about my class. Al was incredible, and what he taught me was, it was Salesforce management, but what Al did was he taught us what he actually wanted us to learn. Pygmalion in management, the Johari window, the 4 stages of knowledge, the knowing, not know, or known, or is it unknown knowns, known unknowns. It's the 4 quadrant. The 80-20 Pareto principle. Literally, this guy taught the greatest class ever. And then after that class, they said, well, you can't teach anymore, or something crazy like that. When I graduated, it was literally the only notes I ever kept was from Al Durgis's class. He was that good. But also, he didn't follow the rules. He taught from what he wanted to teach. I wrote a paper on Dennis Rodman and what he knew about emotional intelligence. You know what that does for a young kid that does not believe in what the system is throwing at him? And here's a prof that basically says, you're right, keep doing this. Here's some other material you're going to love about that. Incredible. But also, just because someone does it one way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. And Al is...
It's just like Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society, right? Everybody is in this amazing Harvard level university, and everybody's taught to go the traditional way. And then you've got this professor who's telling you, oh, love poetry. Do what you like. Life's too short.
There's a quote. I have a quote on the background of my computer has one of his quotes from the Dead Poet Society about just like no matter what people say, your words can change. I'll have to go find it for you. But I still have him jump. He jumps on the desk. Like it's basically like rebel. Like do something for yourself. Do something you care about. all they wanted to do was talk about poetry.
What was that word in there that went really famous? Like they
Captain or captain?
all, I think,
Captain,
yeah.
oh my captain, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys get me all emotional today.
So I think it's a really good segue into like one of our golden questions of this podcast, and we've touched on it in a fragmented way throughout the podcast. But there's this guy we follow, Simon Sinek, and he talks about how if you want to know about somebody, don't ask them what they do, ask them why they do what they do. So I'm gonna ask you this: why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? It's got to be my upbringing was I saw what my brothers and sisters were doing, and I feel like the system kind of screwed them over a little. So I've always been early on, our whole family, like every teacher asked if I had ADHD. I probably do, but I don't know. My grades never suffered. But why do I do what I do? I feel like if you care about things, it makes life a lot easier. Like if you actually work on something you care about, life will be so much easier. And I had a lot of shitty jobs where I just disagreed with the boss, and I was like, almost every job in my mind I was like, I could run this place better, even though I probably couldn't. But in my mind, I was like, I could just do it better because I care about humans in a way that is detrimental to the business, which to me makes you way more successful. So my why would literally be, I don't know. I do feel like I've been given a gift, and like if you've been given a gift, you can't squander it. And so I feel like I've been put on this earth for a reason, and I'm slowly figuring that out. I don't think I have it completely figured out yet, but I do know it's helping people. And again, my default is very happy, and I can take a lot. Like I got bullied one year in hockey, which was odd because I was really cool at school. There's one hockey team, everybody made fun of me, and I just had this moment of like, this is what it feels like? This is awful. And so I feel like that changed me from the loud outgoing bully to the I care about people. You can't just not worry about other people's feelings. So yeah, I feel like the more people realize like you can make a dent in this universe, you can help people, you can do whatever you want, but it's got to be connected to how are you making somebody else's life a little bit better. And there's power in that. Once you realize you're making somebody's life a little bit better, now it gets kind of addicting. Now it's like, oh, well, what if I could sell a big project where we make enough money, we can support the team, then we can do even more. I don't know. I don't think it changes much. Like, I feel like I want to do something big. Like, I want to be remembered for something positive. And can I tell you the moment when I wanted to be rich and then I shifted? I still remember where I was sitting at the UVic Leadership Conference when Irfan Raji, at the time my mentor, he gave a presentation. I still remember what went on screen. It was Sam Walton, and he put Sam Walton's face on. Now, if I showed you a picture of Sam Walton, you probably don't know who he is. But when I say Sam Walton, you're like, oh, it's the Walmart guy. Picture of him, not a single business student knew who he was. Okay, next one. John D. Rockefeller. Not a single person knew who that was. And the last one was Carlos Slim Helou. So he basically said those three individuals, Rockefeller was the richest person when he died by a long shot. Carlos Slim was number 2 on the list at the time. Not a single business student knew who this guy was. Then he showed Gandhi. Who knows who this is? Everyone's hand goes up. Then he showed Mother Teresa. Everyone's hand goes up. Then he showed Martin Luther King Jr. Everyone's hand goes up. And in that moment, I just had this moment of like, you can be rich all you want. All the power. Go make all the money in the world. But people are going to forget you because they don't give a shit about you being rich. If you want to be remembered, if you want to do something remarkable in this world, you have to care about other people. You have to actually make a dent. And so in that moment, I've just never forgotten that of chase the money if you want to, all the power to you. But someone's always going to make more money than you. So your measuring stick, good luck. Whereas if you're helping people, your measuring stick is in here. If you're actually helping people, you feel good most nights. And so you stop competing. And even now it's like, well, can I volunteer more than you? Like, can I help people more than you? Hopefully. So then we have some healthy competition. But ever since then, I feel like I've had this weird, I've told people, because I have some very staunch capitalists in my world, where I'm like, do you really need the more money? Like, could you pay more in tax? Could you? I think most of us could. Most of us could help that generation or those vulnerable people. I don't think we need more. I think we need to help more. And so I just have this idea that if you take me out of my role and you put me working at, I don't know, the DoubleTree over there, I guarantee I'll be back to where I am now within a year or two. I feel like anybody that's been given a gift with this default positivity, we're going to be fine. So stop worrying. Help other people around you. And that's almost your own self-reflection of what gift were you given? Do you have that default positivity? Do you have more energy than everybody else? Can you do something more than everybody else? If you can, guess what? You're the lucky one. Now go spread that around. So to me, it's a recipe for happiness because you don't want to be like Oscar Schindler. I mean, you do. You just don't want to be the Ring.
In that moment.
You don't want to be like that in the moment. You want to make sure that when you do pass, you did so much. Even like Ray Kroc, like, yeah, he started McDonald's and did that kill a lot of people? Yeah, but look at the Ronald McDonald houses. They created this system where parents can stay with them when they're sick, which again probably doesn't matter until you're a parent. Then you're like, that's a very important thing they did, and that's really cool. But yeah, maybe that's my coolness factor has gone from like, you make lots of money to you help lots of people. And I think we all at one point go to the do you help lots of people, not just the money side.
What would you want your tombstone to say?
I go to like cheesy like castle furniture. No, it's a radio jingle. I don't know. I've never thought about that. Like it would probably like care more, like hold the door open for somebody, tell that stranger they're beautiful, like something that makes people go, "Oh, this guy was weird." Or gave lottery tickets to the day he died, or if there's 1,000 lottery tickets buried in the cemetery, good luck.
Easy arrest right there.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're making me think now. I'm not sure. I'm sure it'd be something to do with caring, or maybe a funny joke. I like the.
Because you have a really deep and like an amazing positive perception about helping people, the legacy that you want to leave behind. So I was just thinking it from that perspective that when people come and look at that tombstone, they're like, you know what, I'll learn something from that today.
Yeah, it'd probably be something with lottery tickets then. Or to be honest, I feel like we could all make this world better if we just cared a little bit more about strangers and like one time a day, just do something nice for somebody. You'd be surprised at how much that can dovetail into something amazing. So yeah, maybe it'd be tell someone a joke today or.
So, on the contrary, like you talk about positivity, and I love that, first of all. But let's be real, like, life isn't like all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes there are dark days. How do you deal with negativity and stress? Like, you have your default personality.
Drugs?
Yeah, there we go.
No, I'm like, I've smoked weed a bit in my life, and I don't want to think of it as a crutch. But dark moments, we had a project with a steakhouse where we sent out a certificate for a free bottle of wine to like 30 of the most prominent people in Regina. Well, the boss got a call from SLGA, the CEO, saying that's illegal. You guys have to retract all of that. And I remember
What's illegal about this?
you can't give away liquor in Saskatchewan. It's a big no-no.
As a gift?
As a gift.
I want a liquor at your presentation.
Shh. It was a promotion. We were sending out it was like a pirate scroll, and we burnt the outside edges, and it was you're invited to Silver's for a meal and a bottle of wine, and so I still remember like probably like the hardest day at work. I remember going into the shower and just sitting down and having a moment of like, I'm done. I'm fired. It's over. But then I also had this moment of like, well, it was a good run. Like it was fun, but there'll be something else. When I'm at my worst, like I had a really bad day this year when a lot of internal stuff at StratLab was not going my way.
Do you mind talking about that or no?
Sure. It was like major disagreements with half the team, and like I basically worked by myself for a couple weeks. So I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm the oddball out. I'm obviously the problem here. But in those moments too, you have to kind of recollect yourself and say, well, am I really the problem here?
I was gonna say, is it easy for you to accept that? Because not a lot of people get their ego tied in the way too. Like, no, I can't be the problem.
But I feel like ego probably was a part of the problem as well.
Yeah.
Shockingly, I have a large ego.
Really?
Yeah. And so I I assume that anyway, so I'm like I got to be careful.
Right.
And I work with a lot of creatives who I want to be polite and say it's very delicate around egos.
Because you're hurting their craft in a sense.
Yeah, or not giving them feedback in the proper way. And so I would take, I want to say 95% blame for the whole situation. So it was probably my fault. But this was on the tail end of having literally the best year in my personal life for speaking and everything. So over here, you're a genius and you're sought after and you're making all the money in the world. But over here, everyone hates you. How do you justify that? And in that moment, you can just say, okay, I'm done. Like, I think I told my business partner at the time, I'm like, can I just stay home for a week? I think the response was, well, can we just not pay you for a week? And it's like, okay, no, I'll come in. You really have to do some soul searching on whether you were in the wrong and why you were in the wrong and what happened with that.
How did you get out of it?
I don't think I'm out of it yet. I'm still in it. Changeover in staff. We've had the worst year for turnover in staff. A lot of contributing factors. I don't think it was just one shitty boss, and I say boss, but I don't ever call myself that. I just think I'm bad at dealing with conflict, and if I can, I will avoid it, or I'll just try to run over you, which is not good. And so I think I would say this would be my biggest learning year for interpersonal relationships. So again, that's the horrible year for personnel and how I'm dealing with people. Amazing for learning and how to make sure that doesn't happen again. So as much as I would say it's probably one of my worst years for HR, could have I learned that in a better way? I don't know. I'm too egotistical to sit down and try to learn about how to treat you better. That's so hard for me. But I learned the hard way this year. And so I think I'm better for it now.
Some things you can't even be prepared for, right? Like sometimes they just happen that you just have to take it as it is and just take it one day at a time.
Well, and we all have blind spots. We have things we don't know.
No, exactly. Yeah, like
And
you can't be prepared for everything.
And luckily, I have a very understanding business partner because I'm sure at times he had moments where he was like, is he dumb? Like, does Jeph just not get it? And I openly, I'm like, yeah, sometimes I am very ignorant. But also, in my heart, I wasn't as bad as they thought I was. I wasn't doing the things they thought I was doing. I was just being just me of go, work fast than you need to. And I don't know, at one point it's like some people just aren't going to like you. That's hard for me to process, but also I don't have time to process that. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have been really upset that somebody didn't like me. Now I'm like, oh, like, what are the odds? Like, sure, you may not like me. That's fine. I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
But that's very fucking normal though, because I feel like you can't be the main character in everybody's story. Yes. And I feel like not a lot of people understand that. They think that, you know what, like what's this thing called the spotlight effect? It's everybody has this idea in their mind that, oh, the spotlight's on me 24/7. Even in random strangers' life, like, oh, if I say something, they might think that of me, or if I say something bad, they might think that of me. Dude, they're dealing with their own fucking life. They have their own problems. They're fighting their own battles, their own demons.
Well, that's whatever issues you bring up, you got to understand those are the issues you're dealing with, and you're probably projecting it a little. And so I always am like, well, if I have some problem with somebody, I usually do some soul searching. So I'm like, I don't think I actually have a problem with them. I'm just the idiot, and I need to reassess what I'm doing. But again, we have a non-traditional workforce. Like, we don't have rules.
How does that function? Because like you need some sort of placement, though, no? Like, I
But
get the whole no rules thing.
But it's the McDonald's coffee has hot on it because they got in a lawsuit and they had to do that.
Yeah.
Every time you come across a shitty policy, well, it's because somebody was trying to take advantage of the company and then they had to institute a stupid policy. So we're slowly becoming a bigger company, instituting, to me, policies we shouldn't have to because people are being ridiculous on how they operate. And now I feel like there's a part of me that's a training issue. We train them wrong. Like, if you have proper training, understood this, StratLab could literally be the greatest company to work for because we don't have start times. We don't have end times. We don't have vacation days. If you're good at your job, you could just do it somewhere else. But the bigger picture is you need to be so good at what you do to be a part of that team. And that's what we're dealing with, is that we get resumes every week. We get people applying every single day. Maybe not every day. But you know what I mean? Like, everyone wants to work somewhere. Everyone's looking for a job right now. And the second you have a problem with what you're doing and you're going to be a stick in the mud, we just don't have time for that anymore. We want people that are willing to be a part of a team that's great. And I also want to say that AI has a big part of this too. Like, if you are not adopting the new tools, you're probably going to have to quit. Like, you're just not going to work.
Give us a glimpse of how does your business look like? How does Strat Lab look like? Like, the people, the work culture. What does it look like?
Well, Ali will be shooting Agribition tonight at 10 p.m.
Sweet. Okay.
Will was on a dairy farm for 5 hours last week. Brandon was shooting the curling trials, and he's in Halifax right now. We're so all over them. And then we'll have like Ash, Rem, Nods, Dustin, Gwen and Sahara in Saskatoon this week shooting a conference. So we don't have rules, because if I'm going to ask a videographer to shoot at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, I don't want that shooter to come in on Monday morning. But we have a standing meeting at 11 a.m., so he's going to have to come in at 11 a.m. So there's give and take. And I always assume if you're really good at what you do, pick your hours. I don't care. Just do some really cool shit. And right now we have this unbelievable team that does some really cool shit. And when we have a moment where, like, can anybody shoot at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night? Sure. The dairy farm, Will and I had to go out to a dairy farm at 6 a.m. last week. Sahara and Gwen had to go to Saskatoon for 3 days this week. Like, there's no set job description at Strat Lab. You have to be a part of a high functioning team that gets really cool work done. And if you can't, like, Will's a young guy. He went to Lake Tahoe to shoot curling and back. And Lake Tahoe is like this bougie, not a curling town, which is odd. So I do feel like whatever you want to do in life, if you're willing to be a part of a high functioning team, just know it's probably not going to be traditional. I mean, if it is.
What does it take to be part of it? Like, how do you filter out the resumes?
I would say, so one of our recent employees, Rem, she's weird. I say weird in a good way. All I'm saying is, Rem, I talk
fucking
about,
weird, bro.
Rem,
It's
she.
You're fucking weird.
Rem, I tell people this all the time. I had a client that I sit down with him. He's like, I like Rem. I'm like, why? She sends funny emails. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, she tells me I'm wrong, but in a very nice way. I'm like, she did that to me. So she's got this attitude that she wants to get her way, but she's way smarter than I am at it. And so she will, she disagreed with me in an email, but made it sound like it was my idea anyway. And I was just like, it's like Mentu Judo. She's messing with me in the best way possible. She'll send, there's one email. Also nowadays, if you send perfect email, we think AI created. So she had one, I was like, what do you think of this? Should we do this? And she's like, nope, bad idea. Here's why. And I read it like she was talking to me. And I was like, you can't train that. You can't coach that. Can I teach you how to send me funny email? No, she just has this idea that there's a human on the other end and I want to make them smile while I'm reading this. Those are the soft skills that you can't ever figure out.
Does that stand out in the hiring process for you? Like, say, for example, Nikhil and I are here. Like, how would you select us? How would you reject us? Like, what are your driving factors to make us a part of your team?
I would hire both of you and then say in 3 months' time we have to try. But it's hard. You can't, like, famously, I don't look at resumes. I don't want to see your resume. Will we hired because we saw his Instagram. I mean, it wasn't even me. Brandon saw his Instagram and said, yeah, it's amazing. We should hire him. Your work, what you do, speaks way louder than anything you could. Nods was hired after he asked for an internship because he's at SAS Poly, and we said, no, we can't afford to. But I said, I'll interview you and see if there's a spot. He was so polite. He would he wouldn't do this. He would actually have a coaster. And then after we'd done the meeting, he pushed his chair in. And I just had this moment of, because there's that study of you want to work with people that push their chair in after meetings because they're conscientious of everyone else around and they don't want anybody else to have to do anything for them. Well, Nods was the nicest human. And I just said to him, like, man, I know I said we couldn't offer you this, but can I talk to Brandon? I just think you're one of the most polite people I've ever met. And we actually have a postcard that says, your parents should be proud of how they raised you. Because that's what I told him when he started his internship, and I'm like, the only reason you got this is literally your politeness. With what we do, we move things around the internet and we tell stories. You guys, that's not that hard. What's hard is after a long day when you're at your wit's end, but you see somebody else upstairs that's really struggling, and you take time to console them or say, hey, Sarah, can I help? What do you need help with? Like, I just believe anybody can do our job. Literally anyone. But the only people that are going to do it really well are the people that have this weird sense of caring. And yes, that means in your emails or a coaster underneath your glass. One of the cool ones I talk about, or I used to talk about all the time, was Sahar when she was first hired. We were on a shoot and I was complaining I didn't have any water. I forgot my water. And I didn't think anything of it. And like 2 seconds later, she comes back with a bottle of water. She went and bought a bottle of water and then put it in my pocket as I'm on a shoot with someone. And I just had this moment of, you want people around you that you'd be friends with. And like, I don't know about you guys, I have a very, very kind and generous friend circle where they take care of each other. And I love the idea that our staff has kind of taken that mentality, just take care of each other no matter, like, it's the mentality, don't ask if somebody needs help, help them, whatever that means. That, and I think internally Brandon always has been saying lately, hire people that are friendly to be around. You can teach anything. You can't teach attitude. But if you're friendly already, if you're happy, and if you're happy-go-lucky, people just want to hang out with, people want to talk to you, people want to work with you, just because you look at the world like, oh, it's kind of all rainbows and unicorns out there, even though it isn't.
Nikhil said that too, like you can't teach a character.
Oh my God, I almost dropped
You're
this.
good, you're
Yeah,
good.
so it's like skills are something, they're pretty common. Anybody can learn a skill, right? Character is something that's built, right? You can't teach that.
In the right
And-
environment too.
And I love,
In the right environment too.
and character
Yeah.
matters, because character is when no one else is around. That's your character. Reputation is what everybody else believes about you.
So integrity.
But your character is up. Your character is what you are.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't want to ruin the real world for you, but there's a lot of not honest people out there. There's people that just don't actually care. They're just, you realize they're trying to make a buck. And I'm like, I don't want to blanket and say all salespeople are like this, but I'm like, I get it. They're trying to make money too. Like,
Not everybody, but I feel like majority of the people are putting up a front. It's all a facade.
I am right now. Do you think I'd be wearing this on a Saturday? I'm kidding. I like this shirt.
Yeah.
But it's the facade. Can you keep it going?
No, that's the hard part. That's what I'm talking about. I feel like me personally, like I don't know, like he knows this about me. Like I can only be in a character for so long, but if I feel like it's getting to me, I would start making excuses about, okay, I can't be here anymore, because it starts showing on my face. Like I just can't be fake. It's hard. Like sure, like you can have that mentality, like, oh yeah, fake it till you make it, but it's exhausting having multiple personalities, being a different version of me in front of different people.
Oh, and it's so much easier just to be yourself and like.
And some people might hate you, some people might like you, but then the people that like you find your circle. That's how you find your circle.
But I like that you can't control other people the way they think about you too. So that's why I'm like, I don't really, if people don't like me, I'm like, I actually don't care. That doesn't affect me at all, because I've always had that attitude of, in a group of people, there's always going to be a bunch that hate you. And actually, I think it was Dwight Heinrichs, the very first class I taught at SAS Poly. I'm like, Dwight, I was like, Dwight, I got a really bad review. I got like, this lady hated me in class. He's like, oh yeah, Jeph, the bell curve always remains true. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, the bottom 20% will always hate you. The top 20 will always love you. And I'm like, you're right. There's one guy in my class whose mom called in to say Jeph was the best teacher for this. So in I had one class, I had a girl that wanted me fired. And I had one class where I saved a guy's career in education. And when I called the Rick, the guy in charge of the faculty, I just remember being like, Rick, am I fired? He's like, no, you're good. They balance each other out. But Dwight Heinrichs, the bell curve, people are always going to hate you. Right. And some will always love you. Be true to yourself, though. Do something that's going to make you giggle, which is why I still think my socks that don't match, and just not believing in what other people believe, and just having the courage to do your own thing just makes life a little more fun.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about something you said about helping others. So like, I genuinely believe in this, that kindness really is a strength. Like it's really, really powerful to be kind. It takes courage to be kind. So Simon Sinek talked to one of this guy who hires Navy SEALs, and he asked that person that, who makes as a Navy SEAL, who becomes a successful Navy SEALs? So he says that, I don't know somebody who makes it, but I can tell you who doesn't make it. So all the dudes who show up with big muscles, big tattoos, and they never make it. The people who make it are sometimes, they might look weak, they might look skinny, but when times are tough, when they're physically and emotionally spent, they somehow have the courage to help somebody to the right of them and to the left of them. Those are the people who make as a SEALs.
For sure. Have you seen Captain America?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I was like, it's based on a true story, I'm pretty sure. But at the start, when he goes to training and then they take the grenade, it's that moment where I'm like, I want to be that guy. Or Shep Gordon he wrote They Call Me Superman, The Legend of Shep Gordon. He talked about how he always assumed he was the white knight on the stallion coming in to save the day. So if anybody in his life was in need, he was the first to say, I want to help. I'm going to do it. And he's like, there's a lot of power in being the person that shows up trying to help people. And all of a sudden, like, you look at what leaders truly are, we're the first ones to get their hands dirty. They're the last ones to leave. They're the ones that are always going to be there when times get tough. It's not showing up for the press releases and all the awards shit. No, it's the one that's actually going to be there in the office the longest, or it's going to work the weekend getting a website live today, which is what Brandon's doing.
Like, your employees are not even going to respect you if you don't even work hard and you expect them to work hard. Like, it doesn't work that way, right?
It's a two-way street.
Exactly.
For sure. For sure.
So, Jeph, before we lean into our final segment of our podcast, I just want to ask you one thing. What has leadership and Strat Lab taught you as a person that you're implementing in your personal life, in your business, overall these 13 years? What have they taught you?
Leadership has so many different forms, and there's not one true tried way. But I feel like technically anyone can be a leader. You just got to be willing to sacrifice more than everybody else. And most people aren't. And so it's the classroom when, like, how many people are leaders? And everyone puts up their hand. They're like, okay, you need to run around the school first to run for, like, oh, well, nobody wants to do that. Well, yeah, because we're all fake leaders, me included. I go on a golf trip with 16 guys every year, all alpha males. Am I a leader in that group? Absolutely not. I don't want to be. I'm good to be a follower. And you'll find the best leaders are great followers. I think the biggest thing I think Strat Lab has taught me, it takes a team. And by team, I mean you have to be willing to clean the toilets if you need to, or go run and get water if you need. I was at a conference and I had to go get a kosher meal for somebody in an Uber. That was my role. But in that moment, the event organizer needed somebody. I am the best cheerleader to make sure things can keep going. And I think the biggest thing people don't understand about leadership is that it's not putting your name in lights or the fancy card or whatever. It's actually being the hardest working one, or the one that's picking up the shit when nobody else wants to, or answering the email that nobody else can because you have to tell them why something went wrong. So have I learned that? Oh, absolutely. If you had asked me that 10 years ago, it would have been like, oh, it's the one that's can speak in front of people and all the bullshit stuff about leadership. Nobody tells you about the shitty emails you get, or the having to make ends meet when you don't have enough money to pay your bills off, what credit card should be paid down first when you have 3 that are almost maxed out. Like, it's all that stuff that works into this idea of that, let's just care about people a little bit more. There's a compassionate side to leadership that I completely think I've stolen from several people in my life, but I don't know. I also feel like I don't have a good answer to that because I feel like we're learning it still. Like I'm a student of leadership. I don't think I'm that good at it. Like I said, I have a lot of my friends are way better leaders than I am. But I'm willing to keep learning. There's no giving up. There's no, like, we're not going anywhere. That's when we pitch on something, they don't hire us. I'm like, we'll be here next year. Don't worry. Like, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So before we move into
I thought we were in the last part now.
I want to ask you this.
Okay, go for it.
So we started this podcast based on this idea that stories are a powerful tool. And if you can relate to somebody's life story, it could genuinely change your life. Were there any stories that when you were growing up, you were like, man, I'm really inspired by this? Could be fiction, could be non-fiction.
Like, how old you want to talk? Because I think I have stories from all my life that inspired me. Like,
What has impacted you the most?
the one that always pissed me off, I wouldn't say pissed me off, it was a funny one, but my volleyball coach, I ended up having to coach against him in club. And he had his team, and they were so good. And at the time, he was coaching, his son was in school, and son was playing club, and he coached high school. So this guy effectively was coaching 3 volleyball teams pretty much full time, literally sacrificing his family life for his kids. And so this was also the coach that would bike in the morning in grade 11 from the East End all the way to Winston Knoll to play pepper with me before school started. You could say he was an amazing coach, or he just put more time in than anybody else. And so I think one of the biggest lessons I learned, no matter what you want in life, nothing comes easy. Not even coaching for Kaltofen. But what he taught me was a work ethic. Nobody's good at anything just because they kind of do it. They get good because they sink their life into it. And he was willing to spend time with some random kid that's going to play on his team eventually. He was biking 45 minutes in the morning, half an hour before he had to be at school. Again, I feel like that one of the best lessons learned is that you can help people that you don't know really, and you might get the most out of that. And you have no idea where they're going to go next. But yeah, I went full circle because Nigel he had a scholarship and went to BU, went to Brandon University. He was one of the kids I coached, and so it was like I always wanted to become. It wasn't even Cal actually. I'd go back to Larry Hall in grade 6. Talk about learning moments. This guy I played volleyball in grade 6 for the first time, but I was in his class in grade 7, and he taught me public speaking. So Larry Hall was the one where you need to enunciate, you need to basically put on a show on stage. And I got to speak at TEDx the one year, and Larry Hall's son, who runs Bodhi Yoga, was in the audience. So I got to tell this audience to say, hey, you taught me something in grade 7. And I went on to win a speech competition. Then I went to regionals. The speech was on racism. And I lost to a Chinese guy. He was better, though I'm still upset about that. But yeah, I think there's a couple moments back in the day that were, to me, life-changing. But again, I lucked out. If you ask me, like, how many championships did you win in volleyball and in hockey, I would say almost every year. And I don't know if you're there's the Malcolm Gladwell podcast on how we change our memories up. So I've changed my memory up of my childhood that I'm way more successful than I actually am. And so like, well, how many times do you win? I'm like, every year. I had a championship every year. I'm like, well, maybe not. I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't know. I feel like I always looked up the best coaches in the world and thought they were just so gifted, and it wasn't a gift. It was attitude. And you can always change your attitude. No matter what gift you were given, you can always show up more. You can always work harder. You can always put in more than somebody else. And that is so powerful, especially to somebody that maybe isn't good at anything yet or has been kind of sitting back on the sidelines. Get your hands dirty. Go volunteer somewhere. Go do something. Go get good at something. Bad answer to the question, I know.
Awesome. So we'll get started with the rapid fire round. Nikhil will ask you 3 questions. I'll ask you 3 questions.
Love it.
And, 1 word, 1 sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. Start us off.
You had to say 1 word, 1 sentence. Just Jeph, shut up.
No.
Like, I got to get to my mom. She's still calling.
If you could make one rule that everybody in this world had to follow, what would that be?
You have to compliment a person once every day. You got to spread one thing of goodwill to everyone else. The whole world would be better. Good question.
If you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
Ask for help. Ask for help sooner than you need to. You have no idea how much that would have changed a lot of things. I've thought about that one before.
Fair enough.
What is something that you didn't value in the past, but now you really do?
Family. Didn't understand the connection to family until you have one. And it matters so much more than we think. Family meals, time with your family. Just, you don't want to lose a loved one with regrets. It's the Tim Ferriss, your parents are going to be gone at one point. Don't have any regrets when they go. Spend time with them now. I know it's rapid fire, so I can't say any more on that. But your family is going to be way more powerful than you ever thought possible. It's the Harvard 50-year study on happiness. It all has to do with your family.
Speaking of that, my next question. What has being a husband and dad taught you?
Patience. It's the best. Most of my life I can pay and do anything I want and do it faster and get it done. kids don't care. They're gonna twist you in ways that you never thought possible. But man, emotional after small wins. I'll have a teacher conference interview and I'll just be bumbling like a baby because I'm so proud and I can't keep it in. True joy, though, I would say, of all the things I've accomplished in this world, I don't care how much money you paid me. I would not give up family for any. It is the coolest thing without getting too emotional. I think they just taught me what love is. Unconditional love, which is super cool.
So this is like my favorite question. Pretty deep. What's a favorite restaurant in Regina?
Restaurant? Well, we were bragging about Oxpecker before we got here. I've probably ate there the most. Man, I'm a big Vietnamese guy, so Nuoc Van, Tea Tree, Quan Nan. I haven't had a bad Vietnamese meal in this city. But Koba Bistro. But I went to a new one yesterday called Rainbow. My new thing is go to a restaurant you've never been to, and you might be pleasantly surprised. I think we're creatures of habit, and we love going where we're familiar with. But we try to do everything with our family where the kids get to pick. Now, every now and then, though, I put the same restaurant on all three things they're picking, so I get to pick my own. But favorite restaurant? Oh, there's so many. Yeah, anything Vietnamese.
If you could have a conversation with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be? And what would what would the conversation be about?
I feel like I would want to talk to somebody from the Bible to be like, was it really like this? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Einstein was such a weirdo in the best way possible. It might be Einstein just because, like, the story of he couldn't find his way home one day and he had to call his, like, faculty to give him his own address. And they're like, we don't give this out to people. And they're like, this is Albert. I feel like he's just such a weirdo that I would fall in love with that attitude, but probably Richard Finney. There's a guy that gave away over $1 billion and never wanted to be named. And I think I would just want to ask him what was that all about? Because I believed in that. But also growing up, Chris Farley was my favorite actor. So I feel like I'd probably want to talk to Chris Farley and be like, how did you come up with that bit from SNL with the van down by the river? Because it was so good. And it might be Chris Farley.
Awesome. So before we part ways, before we end the podcast, any final piece of advice for our listeners, our viewers?
Keep going. I had a client send me an email. It wasn't a client, it was like the employee of a client, asked me about this idea they're doing. And I was so impressed. I was just like, and they were asking for feedback on it. And my feedback was, I love it. Just keep going. Don't wait for the big moment. Don't wait for the like, if you feel like it's right and you care about it, do it. You have no idea how powerful that is. But yeah, the world needs a hug, so help someone else. Open that door for somebody. Say hello to that stranger. Again, it's spread goodwill, because all you got to do is change one person's life, and you have no idea how that's going to make someone else. Yeah, you never know how you're going to change someone else's life in a positive way. So don't ever waste those moments.